So money makes money. We used to hear it last decades. And that is the common business paradigm we live. Nowadays, if we want to earn all money in the world, we have to compete through, let's imagine, $1 trillion US companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and to win this competition, you should offer something new, something specific. Now we, I would say, meet new world trend. The most valuable business is not only with a high profit, but with very, very specific and special additional social impact. So that's what we call impact investments. To do social influenced society developing and society transforming businesses. The most outstanding sample of the impact investment agent is Mohammed Yunus. No, wrong picture. So, everybody knows the professor who took the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006 for his microcrediting project in Bangladesh. He developed his Grameen Bank, issuing loans to poor people without any guarantors, just to start their own business up and to extend it a little bit. 3 days ago, I was at Global Citizen Award by ceremony by Atlantic Council in New York. I was really impressed by one life story of Hamdi Ulukay, if you heard. He was one of the nominees. The Kurdish man who moved to United States just to study English. Few years later, he started his own and successful yogurt production business. Now his fortune is about 1.7 billion US dollars. And 3 years ago, he decided to split it and to make the human life of the refugees better, globally. People who are lucky to become successful should give hope to others, he said. So, what do you think why I talk about those famous people? Because they create very, very new, very special definition of the mission to make these impact investments, to make the world a little bit better and different, where money is just a tool. So, and my first question is, who is the only person whose experience, values, attitude to business impress you, maybe motivates, or even learns something? Please. Who will be the first?
Actually, my son is 16, and I talked to him over the summer about what university he wants to go to and what degree he wants to do. I said, so what job do you want to have? And what jobs will exist? And he said, the way to think about life this is a 16-year-old, right? So the way to think about life is pretend that currency and money was never invented, and decide whether your role and job has a societal impact and value, right? So I think you can get massive inspiration from the young, and they are already going, money is just a tool, right? But we spend our lives measuring that, and we justify our existences through how much money I made out of X or Y. And so I completely agree, and I think, try and think about the world without currency, without money, and what are you doing, and does society see value? So I got inspiration not from, Satya Nadella at Microsoft or Elon Musk, but actually from my own 16-year-old.
Thank you. I'm a father of 15 years old boy. I know it very well. So, Valeria, please.
Yeah, I was quite lucky. Even right now, when I consider this my position like the governor of the central bank, I can tell you that it was a really good experience in my life, because I could meet very interesting people. Sometimes for me it was like a surrealism when finally at 50 years old I met, for example, George Soros, because for me, like a person from financial markets, he was some absolutely unique hero. And after you met him, I understand that he's exactly in this area of impact investment, because he's exactly the person who would like to support and develop this world. After, for example, it's a very nice person, it's a very knowledgeable, and everybody knows her, it's Christine Lagarde. And believe me, it's absolutely unique when she told me her story, for example, recommendation of her mother, if you like someone see you, please stand up. If you like someone hear you, please speak up. Means that it's for women, it's a very good message to deliver from such a good person. And also, for example, I'd like a person, he's very famous in asset management, Larry. It also was my pleasure to meet him personally. And I think that what we observe right now in the new segment of asset management, when it's also automation of all processes. It's exactly like in right now and BlackRock asset management company. Yeah, it's 9 years.
Not the only, even 3 of them. Thank you very much. So, Naim.
So, which person, one person I admire? I think that question is not a fair question.
Sorry.
The reason is that no one person encapsulates all the things you want. For example, I can say I admire the boldness and tenacity of Elon Musk. He sets goals which everybody thinks is crazy, and half of them come true. But is he a great person to work for? Is he a good manager? No. I admire, for example, Steve Jobs' detail to the product, but his ethics were questionable, and his, again, people interaction were horrible. So it is hard to answer. Now, Muhammad Yunus, which I talked about, the professor from Grameen Bank, I mean, some way to admire about him, because he changed millions of lives. What he realized, what you said was, he was a professor at a university, he found out all the women are almost in slavery. They buy these things and make baskets for somebody who gives them money, and they all owed him money for every day to buy more raw material. When he looked at the whole village's total, how much they needed to get out of this guy's this slavery kind of mentality, giving them the loan to make the basket, was $18. $18 for the whole village. If they had $18, they did not to make the loan from the person. So he used that concept, scale the business. And he's a wonderful man, I've met him a couple of times. So he did something. So I think the question is the things in people which you want to pick up and admire. No one person encapsulates all of those things. I admire Jack Welch, because Jack Welch created a factory to create top managers. Normally in a company, who's the person right next to CEO who gives him the most power and sits next to the CEO. Typically, he's the chief financial officer. But he said no, he's the head of HR. The human resource is the most important person. So he changed and put many policies in place to groom people. There are more companies run by people who work at General Electric than maybe any other place. So there are many things to admire in many people, and I think you all need to figure out the amalgamation in your own mind, and don't go after one person that Jesus Christ, yeah, this is the best, the one complete person. Jesus Christ had many faults, I can talk about that too.
Well, thank you very much. So good, interesting speech. Thank you very much, and be ready for the next, a little bit more provocative question. So my second question is, what is the number one challenge faces global business today? So, and please, give us your explanation and explain why you think so. Thank you.
I think that the problem with businesses today, and all the businesses I talk to, they believe technology is coming. They do not understand the tsunami which is coming. And so I was with a board member of a big bank, a global bank, and they were talking to me about their future model. And there was going to be technology-enabled, almost no people, utility banking differentiated by brand, right? And I said, okay, that's very interesting, and they want to get there in 7 years, right? They could do it, the technology's there. But then I go, well, if you believe you can do that, you have to believe that health systems can do that, accountants can do that, etc. So who are you lending money to today? Because those people won't have jobs. And how are you investing in society so that society does have new jobs? So actually this blinkered view about the size of the change coming down and the wider, broad societal impact, we just focus on one slice, my bank or my organisation. We need to think about it more broadly.
Are you satisfied?
I think that the biggest problem right now is populism. And we should ask right now why populists are so popular. Because it's everywhere. Unfortunately, it's a real, absolutely negative trend. I think it's a disaster. And recent result of Brexit, even new American Dream right now, it's all about populism. And unfortunately, Ukraine right now is also a very dangerous trends and all these populists. It's the biggest disaster. The main problem and why all these populists are raising their hands and this and there, it's only because of all this automation which we discussed today. Brings some real problems for some normal common people around the globe. And when we are sitting today, only 100 people sitting in this room, and discussing all these items about artificial intelligence. All other people, stay in absolutely the same streets with absolutely the same problem. In India, with tons of garbages. In Japan, it's an absolutely different story because automation and all this artificial intelligence didn't help you with your personal life, and the biggest maybe rate of suicide right now, it's absolutely in very good developed Japan. Yes, that's why we need, what we need to do and extremely quickly to think about that. It's exactly for professors of universities, it's not for us, for real business. We need to develop some new social areas, because when we discuss all the time capitalism and Friedrich Engels and Karl Marx, and after socialism and communism with Lenin, and after fascism with Hitler, I think it's time for us to consider some new theory of social relations. And it's absolutely needed in a 21st century with such a level of automation which we discussed today.
So I think we may be on the same page on this one, because the biggest challenge faced by the businesses, and they don't quite realize that, is the new labor force. There's a huge mismatch in the current people running companies, how they manage, and the young people, the 20 years old coming out. They don't know how to manage them. There's a big mismatch in the skills needed and the skills being trained by the current education system. So that's why the technology is going to get rid of many, many, many jobs. So people are not totally ready to do that. What's going to survive in the future are interdisciplinary expertise. Somebody is good at biology and computer science, because that's the kind of connection we need to make to operate the projects and machines of the future. Universities are not training it. The bureaucrats don't appreciate it. Young people are clueless about it. And this big mismatch is going to be a huge problem in the next 30 years. Now, thank God for artificial intelligence, we can somehow survive through it, but it's going to restructure the foundation of how organizations are run. This could be a scary massacre.
Thank you. So, and my third question, if I have enough time, what do you think? Yep. 5 more minutes, I guess. So, my third question. You are successful people, no doubt. And what is your personal choice of such kind of investments like impactful? And please give us your offer to Ukraine.
Start with me again. So you want to understand my personal investments, in effect, in terms of... Okay. I personally have a crusade around education. So once a month, I go and see as many teachers and head teachers as I can to talk about the future skills and capabilities required. And I do that every month. That's my personal thing to try and get the young people today energized. And I also do that with some of the universities and schools. So what was the second question? So from a Ukraine point of view, yeah. So I actually think coming along and doing events like this, you know, in terms of, but I think there's some stuff around. I completely agree about the societal piece, right? I think we need to start the conversation on a broad basis and change the tone of the conversation away from all the jobs are gone to what do we want society to be going forward. And if I can get onto a stage and do that every day, I'll do that, and my firm allows me to do that. So,
thank you.
Maybe create some joint efforts to do that, because I absolutely agree with you. Right now it's more important for me than all automation which we discussed. And about impact investment, I think my personal projects right now is absolutely in line with impact investment. It's medical and it's education. And more to that, Ukraine, when you ask what you can offer to Ukraine, we should consider even what we can offer to the world. And of course, we could easily start in Ukraine to grow a business, and I think that all our audience would also acknowledge that in Ukraine we know how to do that, we know it's less expensive to start this project in US or in UK, and that's why absolutely. Of course, when we are talking about pharmaceutical sector, when you, Gleb, work,
yeah, you should know my family. Sorry, my family is engaged in pharmaceutical business.
Yeah, but research and development, it's very costly. But when we are talking about, for example, project like my project in medical sector, it's more services. When you will benefit from any good innovations, for example, a few days ago, was the launch of all this new iWatch by iPhone. Yeah, it's already a cardiogram, a third cardiogram is there. That's why you do not produce cardiogram, but I produce a cabinet, an office, and cabinet for doctors, an office for patients, when they easily accept this information and look through. That's why when you do something like added value to patient and doctors, you do not need to have all this huge research and development capacity. You need to do something else which apply these absolutely tools, you know.
So I think the question number 2, that what to invest in and what to Ukraine. So what to invest in, I've already answered. I told you in that slide what I invested in. It's all the technologies I mentioned. Let me talk about Ukraine specifically. The problem is, what do you think is the difference between Ukrainian people and Silicon Valley? Silicon Valley is not a place, it's a mindset. Because we believe we can do anything. We can change the world. It's kind of our responsibility to change the world. What I see the problem in Ukraine is your mindset is defeated and thinking small. You have some of the smartest IT people in the world. You mentioned I'm hiring a Ukrainian guy, people get pretty excited back in Silicon Valley. Thing is, you should think bigger. There's no reason you cannot implement a telemedicine system which can bring smart surgeons, doctors, opinion from all over the world to any city, any village. There's no reason you cannot do agriculture and be the biggest exporter of wheat, you're already of sunflower, #1 in the world, of corn and other things. That's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm getting Ukraine. Bring my technology to help make the grain safer, last longer. You can do that. It's not rocket science, but you have to think bigger. So it's the mindset. If you can change the mindset of the young people, that everything is possible, nobody's going to stop me, there's nobody will stop you. You're stopping yourself.
Thank you very much. So, we saw a diversity of impact investments, yeah? We have seen people who brings us, I'm talking about you, who brings us a sample, and I would say a pattern of tomorrow, of the nearest future. So thank you very much for your personal valuable contribution. And let me also share my dream. So I believe there are a lot of business people in this hall who will join us. So don't limit yourself, please. Don't be shy. Share your values and make this kind of impact investments in Ukraine and every day. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot.